Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Coffee Black, where the Voyager adventures continue on YouTube. I'm your host, Captain G, and this is the channel where you get your refill of everything Star Trek, from trivia, news, reviews, and more. So before I get started on today's topic, I'd like to encourage new viewers to subscribe to the channel. Also, follow us on all our various social media platforms for more Star Trek content. Hey everyone, this is Captain G with my review for the movie Star Trek Section 31 that is currently streaming on Paramount+. Believe it or not, this is the first Star Trek movie that I'm reviewing on the channel. I've seen all the others, but I've yet to do any reviews. So if you enjoyed this review, or you're interested in more reviews of other Star Trek films, drop a comment in the comment section and let me know, and I'll continue doing more reviews. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and dive into this brand new film, Section 31. I will go ahead and say that this is a spoiler-filled review. I'm going to talk about a number of different things that happen throughout the film. So if you haven't seen it yet, probably should check it out first. Otherwise, I'm pretty much just going to destroy the entire movie for you by talking about it. So that's up to you. So Star Trek Section 31 is definitely not a traditional Star Trek film, which is something I think most fans were prepared for. I mean, it's kind of in the title. Section 31 is a shadow organization that does all the dirty work for the Federation without any oversight or anything like that. They were introduced in Star Trek Deep Space Nine and appeared in various episodes of Star Trek. So with that knowledge in place, this wasn't going to be a traditional Star Trek movie. So I didn't go in watching this film expecting it to be that even remotely. I expected it to be different. The marketing itself was very different as well. If you watched any of the trailers, which I did, I saw a couple of the trailers, it was very flashy, it was very fast, and it didn't really give away a whole lot of the actual plot, which to a certain degree I think was a good idea because it left a little mystery. But with all that being said, this film is definitely searching for its own identity. There's so many different themes that just didn't really seem to mesh well for me. There's just no identity with this film at all. It was action-packed. It had a lot of interesting dialogue choices that I'll talk about it a little later. I don't really want to dog on this film too much. I know there are plenty of reviews out there that are already tearing it to shreds. I've heard about the Rotten Tomatoes score and everything else as well. But overall, it just seemed like the film didn't have a whole lot of depth. Starting at the very beginning, we get a very lengthy flashback showing how Philippa Georgiou of the Mirror Universe becomes the Emperor of the Terran Empire. And right off the bat, the whole concept kind of sounded like they were stealing from the Hunger Games franchise. It seemed a little weird that that was the way they selected their emperor. I know it's been shown in previous incarnations of Star Trek in the Mirror Universe where emperors were basically, assassinating each other to have power. Captains were killing other people to stay in power, and it's just a weird, crazy hierarchy if you always got to watch your back because the person below you is trying to kill you and take your spot. But here we didn't get that. It was almost like a rite of passage where a number of people were thrown together to kill each other up to the point till there are only two. And then the final two, instead of fighting each other to the death, had to sever ties to their past lives by killing their families. And if they didn't do it, they would slaughter your entire village. I understand they're trying to build up just how ruthless the Terran Empire was, but it was just an odd choice, I think, to do that. It kind of felt like a little bit of a Hunger Games ripoff, just a little odd. Later in the movie, we get a breakdown, a narration that was also a bit clunky and kind of awkward, where they were trying to describe the character of Georgiou and explain who she was and where she was from and why the Section 31 agents were trying to seek her out. But that whole part, I don't know whether it was just the actor that was doing the voiceover or just some of the dialogue as well. This dog bites. I it's like trying to sound cool and you're not really that cool. The dialogue just doesn't really work for me at all. The next major scene, we see a space station that Giorgio's on. That was one of the things I actually kind of liked. I thought the space station design was really cool, very different. One thing I will say about this film is the effects are actually pretty good. A lot of the ship designs are pretty neat. A lot of the action sequences are pretty good as well. I think that's one of the stronger parts of the film, is just the general flash and pizzazz of everything. That being said, story, that's another issue. But on the station, Giorgio's there under an assumed name, basically running what looks to be like a bar of some type, which is pretty cool because you see a number of different types of aliens. I liked that entire set. I thought it looked really neat. And through the course of that entire sequence, you basically see the entire Section 31 team all there in the bar setting, trying to blend in. One of the things that kind of bugged me about that whole sequence would probably be the shapeshifter. Of all the characters that are trying to blend in, you have the shapeshifter just chilling as himself, or, the version of himself that he typically shows everyone. I thought that was a little weird. I mean, I think it would have made more sense that he would have chosen something different just so he'd be able to blend in. In the very next scene, Giorgio basically, pinpoints all the members of Section 31 that are there, in the bar. And she's very much aware of all the members, and I kind of feel like the shapeshifter, maybe she wouldn't have picked up on that as well. The next major scene we have is her introduction to the entire team. This scene did not work for me. It was very fast-paced, lots of chattering back and forth, trying to push some very generic norms. It almost felt like a video game. Like, here's an introduction to all your different classes and your different types of characters and their strengths, their weaknesses. And once we got to the Vulcan robot controlled by an alien called Fuzz, that's when that whole conversation and that whole scene just did nothing for me. I instantly did not like the Fuzz character at all. I found his voice obnoxious. I don't think the accent really worked well. And I'm sure the actor is a solid guy, really fun, but the route they decided to go with that character and how he acted really grated on my nerves throughout the entire movie. I was looking forward to him getting, and unfortunately it took to the end of the movie for that to happen. But yeah, not a fan of that character. Of the entire crew, that was probably the one character that I just looked at and couldn't resonate with and just kind of found obnoxious. Another character that I thought was a little odd in the movie was the character of Rachel Garrett. Rachel Garrett, of course, has appeared in Star Trek before as the captain of the Enterprise C. So obviously they were looking to add a little continuity for that character, which to an extent is kind of neat. But the way they used her was just a bit odd to me. Section 31 is meant to be covert. It was meant to be so secret that technically the Federation wasn't even supposed to know it existed. That it was an old article of the Federation Charter that allowed for a secret organization to be created and then to act on behalf of the Federation without any oversight or control by the Federation. And in this film, it really doesn't follow those rules at all. Especially when you have a member of your team, Rachel Garrett, who is a member of Starfleet, and not there as an agent of Section 31 who happens to be in Starfleet too. Instead, she's there officially from Starfleet to oversee the team, to oversee Section 31. When the entire point of Section 31 is that they have no oversight. I understand in Star Trek Discovery, they kind of turned Section 31 into their own version of the OSS or the FBI, especially in a time of war with the Klingons. to an extent I could understand that, but at this point in the timeline, choosing a character to be Federation based, overseeing a Section 31 team, it's kind of taking away from what made Section 31 interesting, at least for me. I think it's a bit much, and it kind of contradicts the whole point of Section 31. One of the things that did surprise me was the initial mission itself when they're trying to acquire the biological weapon. And we had the first member of the team die. To a degree, I kind of liked that because it showed, okay, you know, there are consequences to actions, you know, not everybody's going to make it through this. So that was a bit of a surprise. I probably would not have chosen the Deltan to die, though. I kind of feel like that character was terribly underutilized. Not that she really had a major use for the overall plot, but I think they could have just used that character better. I really wanted to learn more about that Deltan character because we really haven't seen a whole lot of Deltans in Star Trek. We basically have like the motion picture and that's it. So this is the second Deltan ever that we've ever got to explore and learn more about that character, that alien race, and then we got nothing. They killed her off, right, on the first mission. So that was a little disappointing. It was kind of a give and take. Cool that it happened, but not cool who it happened to. They could have just done that to Fuzz, but then, of course, that would have affected the story later in a negative way. They would have had to totally redo everything. So Georgiou attempts to get the biological weapon and uses some kind of weird phase discriminator thing to keep her from being touched, which was an interesting gimmick. Georgiou, of course, was trying to get the bioweapon and had a masked character show up and try to take the bioweapon themselves. Right off the bat, I had a theory about who that character was, and I was right. They probably should have done something a little less obvious, I think. I felt like that was telegraphed from the very beginning when they were showing the backstory for Georgiou and the guy that she loved. So, yeah, kind of predictable, I think. The entire fight sequence was pretty cool, I will say that. I enjoyed that. How the Deltan died, I mean, she got a pretty badass death. I'll give her that. I mean, hit with a phaser and just vaporized like that was really, really cool. But from that point on, it seemed like the entire film kind of shifted into a whodunit type of a situation where a member of the team apparently was a mole working along with that character and sabotaging everything and even killing one of the team members. By this point, I kind of wished we'd dove deeper into that type of a story. I kind of feel like if they'd focused on that more and spent more time on that instead of the constant Georgiou flashbacks and trying to make some of these characters, I don't know, witty when they weren't. I just gotta be honest, I really wasn't a fan of a lot of the writing, a lot of the dialogue. During the torture scene where they were trying to get information out of Data No, which is just the weirdest name ever. Why? I the character design was cool. The name, that was just weird. But yeah, the torture of Data No. He had a line after he hears Georgiou's full name, which is actually pretty cool. I liked that part where we had that lengthy, multiple name for Georgiou. And he responds, "Oh, can I have fries with that?" Like, the joke didn't land, and that's kind of a dated joke. You know, that's a fast food reference. Is there fast food in the future at this point in Star Trek? I mean, it seems like everywhere's like an established place, a bar, a restaurant. Maybe there is fast food, but even if there is, why would someone from the Terran Empire, as it's revealed that that character is from the Mirror Universe, how would they know about French fries? It just seemed like a throwaway line that was trying to be witty and trying to be funny. I didn't laugh at it. Maybe you did. Maybe some people found that funny. I just didn't find it remotely funny. It just seemed like a throwaway line that was really, really silly. Fast forwarding a little bit further, of course, we have the whole murder mystery where the guy in the armor suit was killed, trying to figure out who done it. And I never believed it was Garrett right off the bat. The moment they had blood on the fingernails, I'm like, oh, that's a good frame job. But there's only one person that could really pull that off. And that's the little guy in the obnoxious Vulcan robot. So, again, a bit predictable, but I kind of feel like if they'd fleshed that out a little bit more, that would have made a more compelling, interesting story than some of what we got. Ultimately, we have the big reveal of who the villain is, and it's Giorgio's servant, former lover, love interest, whatever you want to call him, wanting to basically invade the Prime universe via a portal caused by 2 ion storms that collide or something to that nature, how they described it, and basically wants the Terran Empire to invade after they use their weapon of mass destruction to cripple the Federation, which that part of it was actually pretty interesting. The final epic battle on board the ship and everything between her and him, maybe it was a direction choice or an editing choice, but it was a bit much, showing constant flashbacks of the younger version of themselves, you know, putting their heads against each other and hugging, and it's like, we get it. There's internal struggle, you know, she doesn't want to kill him, but he wants to kill her. I mean, in that scene alone, I would almost challenge anyone that wants to rewatch this movie, do a drinking game with it. Every time there's a flashback like that, just a brief flashback, you know, take a shot. Yeah, that was just a bit much. I didn't mind the fighting and everything. The action was pretty decent, but those unnecessary flashbacks were an odd choice. Another odd choice was their breakdown of the acts, basically. Everything, I guess, they were trying to do in a chapter, but basing it on like a transmission. You had transmission 1, 2, 3, and then the final transmission. Really, it was just a general breakdown of acts 1, 2, 3, 4. It didn't need it. It didn't add anything to the film. I think they were trying to make things extra spy thriller or something by doing that. But it didn't do much for me there either. I really didn't see the point. Overall, this was just a generally disappointing film. I didn't have a high standard set for this. I didn't have a high bar because everything surrounding this film just constantly changed unnecessarily. This began, from what I understand, as a series. This was a series concept that was going to focus on Giorgio and Section 31. And then Michelle Yeoh got her Oscar, you know, Academy Awards, and all of a sudden, oh, we want to do a movie. And that kind of worried me a little bit. I was like, well, okay, they're trying to maybe use her star power and do a movie. They'll do it in theaters. But I still would have preferred a series, because typically a series will have, not always, but most of the time they'll have a better story arc. But then they announced it was going to be streaming on Paramount Plus, and that's when it really concerned me. Because every single Star Trek film up to this point has been in theaters. So it kind of projected to me that Paramount did not have faith in that film and decided, you know, they'll just put it on their streaming service, you know, to boost Paramount Plus. So that right there made me even more nervous about the quality of the movie. And I feel overall my concerns were kind of validated with this film. That being said, I didn't want this to be a bad film. I wanted this to be fun. I wanted it to be better than it appeared. And for the most part, I avoided reviews and everything else that came out the day of, so I could watch the film, enjoy the film in its intended format, and just see how I felt about it. And unfortunately, this film just misses the mark completely. And it's not because it's not a traditional Star Trek film. It's simply a bit too generic, messy. The dialogue was odd. I think it was in an Entertainment Weekly article where they said originally they were going to do the series, and then they scrapped the entire script for that and decided, oh, well, we'll keep Giorgio, and then we'll just do a movie script. And it kind of feels like maybe they got 2 or 3 drafts in on that film script and thought it was good enough and just said, hey, this is great, let's do it. Because, I don't know, visually it wasn't bad, but it kind of felt like the general writing and the plot of the story felt rushed. It didn't feel like it was fleshed out enough for me to care about any of the characters. I feel like the only characters I really found interesting were probably Giorgio and her handler, the guy that was later revealed to be an augment. I actually thought that was pretty cool. His character was interesting. I kind of feel like they could have spent a little bit more time on him. There are a number of different things they could have done to improve this story. I think it really just needed more rewrites. And maybe some modifications to some of the characters, because yeah, I keep on circling back to Fuzz, and I just don't get it. I don't understand why they went the route they did with that character. He was a very awkward character, very weird. I'll go so far as to say this is probably not going to have much rewatch value to a lot of Star Trek fans. If you're a fan of Discovery, you might watch this a little bit more than that. If you really like Giorgio is a very likable character. One of the few characters I'd say that I really liked on Discovery. So having her in this film kind of made sense to that degree. But overall, I just don't understand who this film was for. Didn't make sense to me. Diehard Star Trek fans probably aren't going to like this, and then from what I've seen of other reviews, they didn't. General Star Trek fans probably aren't going to find much interest in it. And then the one thing that Paramount seems to really be wanting these days, which is new fans, new people coming into Star Trek. Nothing about this film really, I think, would appeal to the general audience either. So, I don't know. This one's a bit of a head scratcher for me. I don't really understand why they took the route they did with this film. So, if anything, I'm just a bit disappointed, I think, just as a Star Trek fan. But if other people enjoy it, great for you. I'm glad you enjoyed the film. For me, it just didn't really work. And for that, I'm going to go ahead and give this film a rating of 2 coffees out of 10. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to drop a comment in the comment section below and let me know what you thought of the film. And I will see you all in the next video. Thanks for watching. Take care. Live long and prosper.